Video. Are we live? We're live. Yay. Sorry for the delay. Well, not much of it. Oh, I guess it is a big delay. 8 minutes. We're 8 minutes later than we said we would be. But that's okay because nobody's actually ever watching right when we start anyway. Hopefully some people will join in when they're still browsing Facebook and they get their little SilviaFindings is live notification. And if not, that's okay. I enjoy talking to myself anyway, because sometimes you need to talk to the most intelligent person in the room, and sometimes that's me. Getting a delivery. Anyway, thank you for joining us again for this Wednesday, the 21st? 23rd? 21st. Wednesday, April the 21st, lovely spring day in the Vancouver suburb of Richmond, British Columbia. Gorgeous morning, actually. One of those days where it's like, we only have about 12 sunny days in the whole year, and today is one of them. And it's one of those days that are just glorious and make you appreciate just how beautiful the weather can be here. When it's raining most of the time. And that, I'm gonna say, even though most people know that that's kind of a trope and it's not really true, I still like to tell people that yeah, it does rain all the time here. Don't come here. Don't move here. Rents are already too high. Anyway, neither here nor there. We're gonna continue today with doing more rings. I think we've finished just about finished all the tiny rings, smaller rings. We're moving up to a little bit more, medium size, maybe a little bit bigger rings. I'm gonna say bigger. I don't mean obviously ring size. I just mean the setting size, right? The size of the cab or the stone that will fit in them. And some of these are really, really wild styles, so I really enjoy them. Same as always, if you share this video, we'll send you one of these lovely polishing cloths as a thank you for that. What is it all the YouTube people say? Like and subscribe and do all that stuff. Although this is Facebook, so when it eventually gets it onto YouTube, then you can like and subscribe. Or not. But right now we're on Facebook Live, so this is where we are. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, we're here for you as a jewelry education resource, and on that front, normally I kind of throw in a little bit of a spiel, a little bit of a plug for our custom services, which I think is one of the most exciting things about this business. We're great. We have tons of amazing pendants and rings and chain and you name it. But something about the custom aspect of the business that I find really exciting. We're all using the word bespoke here now, which is really fun. The first time I heard it, I actually had to Google it. Like, well, what? Okay. Oh, right. But it's a great word, and it really covers a lot of what we're doing lately. More and more of, obviously we've always done custom work, but we're doing more and more of it now. And to that end, we've added a couple of machines to the business and a couple of changes to the workflow, a little more professional. Let me just move this around. I don't know if you could see that. I don't know if you can see that machine there. That this big finger with the orange thing there. That's our fabulous new 3D printer that prints castable resin prototypes of things. Oh, I have some here, right? I don't know if you can see. Oh, right. So a customer will send us. This one has not been removed from the supports from the printing, but a customer will want a design of something. They'll send us the dimensions of their stone, or now even better, because we have. I'm not going to show it to you because it's quite frankly, it's kind of a boring. It's just like a box machine. 3D scanner to that you put the stones in. You push the ostensibly it's as simple as pushing a button and it scans the stone, and next thing you know, you have a beautiful 3D CAD file of the dimensions of the stone, and from there we can send that to the people who do the graphic design, the CAD, the 3D design of the pendants and stuff, and the custom things. And they can use those 3D scans of the stones to build the seat around it, so that there's never an issue with the stone, fitting right or not. And once they've designed the stones, they, or the whatever, once they've designed the piece, they can send us the 3D file of that. We can print a castable resin prototype of it and send it to you, and you can check to make sure your stones fit in there. And if they don't, or if if there's some changes you like, because sometimes when you have something in your mind and you explain it to somebody, even if you do little drawings and the drawings are good, or they're not good, like my drawings are terrible, but they're meant to convey an idea more than be an accurate representation of it in that form. But when they actually get down to physically designing it in the CAD program that they use to make the prototypes from, sometimes it's a little bit different. It's like, well, I imagined it a little, and then, and at this point, changes can still be made pretty inexpensively. Obviously, once it's been signed off on, we cast it, and then you're on the hook for whatever you pay. That's it. Once we make it, that's it. You bought it, you bought it, kind of thing. Having said that, so a castable resin prototype that we can send to you is a nice thing to be able to check your stones. Or if you like, if you want it to be 100% guaranteed that your custom piece will be perfect, we're now accepting. We used to kind of like not be okay with it, but we've changed a few things about how we handle the workflow of these things. So if you wanted to send us your stones, then we can scan them, and then make sure that they're perfect, do the whole design things. We'll hold on to your stones, and then when it comes in for a fee, we can set them. We'll set the stones right in the things for you, so that when you get it, finally, it's already done. Here's your ring with your stone set in, or your pendant, or whatever, or with the stone already in it. I think that's probably the best way. We'll see what happens if we end up with hundreds of people wanting things now. We might have to change how we do things, but for now, I think this is awesome service, and really super inexpensive too. So that, I think, is just about it. And we have a couple of other machines, like a diamond tester, just to, because sometimes somebody's ordering a, carat gold, custom ring, and we get accent stones in them or something. They might be like, well, are those really diamonds, or are those things like, trust, I can say, trust me, they're really diamonds, but people like to see a picture. So we have a diamond tester that you can see, definitely show photographic evidence of, if it's a diamond, if it's a moissanite, if it's a cubic zirconia, if it's, whatever, lab grown diamonds, and whatnot, and that's fun. And then we also have coming in the metal tester to, it's not here yet, I think it's coming in a couple of weeks, that will be able to determine the metal it is. And I'm not sure how that machine works, because I'm a jewelry fabricator. I've been, doing jewelry fabrication for a long time, almost 30 years. So for me, if I, what is this? I don't know what this piece of metal. Well, I just cut a piece off and I melt it and I see how it behaves. And normally I can tell, from that how, if it's fine silver, if it's sterling silver. Can't always tell the different carat weights of gold very easily. But but you can usually tell different kinds of metals by how they behave when you melt them. Of course, you know, when you send metal off to a scrap dealer who melts it down and makes ingots and stuff, they assay it and they have all kinds of, you know, tests for those kind of things. Supposedly, this machine can test, you know, the carat weights and the alloy contents without damaging the thing, without taking any of it off, without melting it. And I want to see that, because to me that sounds like magic. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I'm excited. The 3D printing and the 3D scanner, and especially that 3D scanner, boy oh boy, I love that machine. That just makes my life so much easier. Just knowing that you know, the design is being built around, it's almost like having the actual stone there when they're doing the design, instead of doing it based on, you know, measurements, you know. And when I take measurements for those guys to do those things, I mean, I take pretty accurate measurements, and I try to put in as many measurements as I can. But sometimes, you know, the shape of the pavilion is weird, especially with colored stones. You know, diamonds are normally pretty traditionally cut, and the angles are kind of set, not really in stone. Stone. See what I did there? They're kind of set in stone, and you know, they're kind of usual. They're kind of traditional. So it's easy to build seats that will work for just about anything. But for colored stones, you know, lapidaries have their own styles, their own things. You know, they might change the shape of, you know, the pavilion of the stone based on, you know, if it's really light color stone, they might make it a little bit deeper to accentuate the deepen the color of the stone. If it's an expensive material, they might make the pavilion bigger so that it's heavier, so that they could charge more, right? Because they're selling it by carat weight instead of by dimensions. All those tricks, and then there are just lapidaries who are just bad, who are just terrible at their job, and the girdles are all very uneven, and they're all things. And using a traditional setting that's nebulous, that you don't know what kind of a stone is going to go in there. You only know like the perimeter dimensions. Sometimes it's hard to design something that you know 100% is going to fit. Usually it does, you know, but sometimes it doesn't. You know, we've had custom ring. There's one particular custom ring that we've remade twice, and now we have 3D scans of the stones, and even when I look at the scans of the stones, it's like, oh man, this is obvious why this doesn't fit in a normal setting. Look at the girdle, you know. So whatever. So this is a game changer as far as I'm concerned. It pretty much guarantees that stones will fit 100% of the time in the custom scheme. Assuming we have your stones to scan. Anyway, I've spent too long talking about this. I'm just excited about it. So blah, 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 I go on and on and on. Let me jump into the rings. Let me just switch this around. Oh. There's my lovely backdrop. Our first ring today. MTR 146 with a retail price of $28.05 and a wholesale price of $20.07. This is for a 12 by 13, cushion cut, I guess, right? Yeah, cushion cut. It's a curvilinear rectangle, which is my favorite word that I discovered years ago in a. It was a jewelry making, I think it's Ganoxen is the name of the website. Somebody called a ring there curvilinear. Anyway, so this has got very cool shoulders. Not a very deep gallery there. The bottom is kind of plain. Very cool basket, almost like an inverted fleur-de-lis, you know, design. I don't know, very cool shoulders, very cool setting. This is designed obviously for a cabochon. The prongs are not super tall, so I don't know. It would really depend on the shape of your cut stone. If you thought you could put a cut stone in there, I wouldn't try. I would just reserve this for cabochons and call it a day. Our next ring, MTR $386 with a retail price of $24.54 and a wholesale price of $17.19. This is for a 12 by 16 oval cabochon. Yeah, pretty much stuck with a cab on this. Maybe a cut stone if the pavilion is like super shallow, which is rare. But the cab just fits right in there. You could push these tabs over onto the outside of the thing. I know it doesn't look like much. It's very simple ring, very simple shank with that head being the whole seat. But this is one of those rings where when there's a stone in there and these are pushed down on there, you just see these lovely scallops around the cardinal points of the cab, and it looks gorgeous, right? You could probably also fill that with epoxy resin. Don't get me started on that. Here's another ring. This I love this one personally. MTR 176 with a retail price of $41.93 and a wholesale price of $31.54. This is for a 10 by 16 cabochon, which I put one in here. This is kind of like a 10 by 14 cab, so it's a little not quite as wide as it should be, but I just wanted to put a stone in there to show you how cool this is. This stone to be glued onto the frame down at the bottom there, and then these vines, you can be pulled up a little bit to put your stone in there, but then those two things get pushed down. It looks like it has all that kind of millgrain texture on the vines. Kind of looks like, if you look at it quickly, like, oh, are there stones in there? But they're not. It's just silver millgrain texture. I love that ring. That's one of my faves. Here's another one that's really cool in a similar vein. MTR 340 with a retail price of $20.55 and a wholesale price of $15.40. This is for a 7 by 9 oval, and these, God, we sell a ton of these because they're so simple to set, right? You could pull these up a little bit, these curves up a little bit to get your stone in there. That gets glued to that once your glue has set. You normally, if you're using a good two-part epoxy, you'll let that sit overnight, and then you can push these things down onto the stone to not really for security, but more just for aesthetics, to make it look really cool. Those curves being pushed down onto the stone will protect the stone from being bashed too badly if you knock it against stuff. But it's it's just a very cool filigree-ish sort of shape with those kind of free-form curlicues and things. Stuff. It's very cool. Here's another MTR 193 with a retail price of $44.17 and a wholesale price of $33.13. This is for a 6 by 9 oval, and this for a cut stone. Has a very cool what do they call that? Cathedral? Yes, cathedral. With that air space down in there, or airline. Yeah, there's a fancy term for it. It just means a gap, right? So pretty simple shank, split 3 ways. 2 of them become these big sort of prongs. I don't know if you can see that angle, right? So your stone would fit down in there. You could just pull those edges up a little bit, get your stone in on one side, then push that down and get that centered, similar to the way you would do like a channel set. Anyway, and then once your stone is in there, you could push those down onto the girdle, right, or onto the crown. I guess the girdle would hold right into the little corners. Works better on very sharp girdles. If you have really wide girdles, it might be trickier. It'll still work, but I guess if it's a really super wide girdle, you should throw away the stone anyway, because man, nothing makes me angrier than uneven or super wide girdles. MTR 340, that just sounded weird, I don't know why. MTR 334B, like boy. $38.29 is a retail price and $28.71 is a wholesale price. This is a 16 by 21 oval. Very simple, nice wide shank, right? The shoulders are notched here; those aren't pierced all the way through, so they're just very simple, notches. And again, kind of really simple seat on there. There's almost no finger space or almost no room under the gallery for the stone. So you definitely, this is for cabochon, right? With those nice big tall prongs, flat on the inside, rounded on the outside. And the seat is nice and square, nice and flat. So this is for a cabochon, 100%. I hate saying don't try it, but yeah, don't try putting a cut stone in there. I just love this. It's almost, it's kind of, nice. I have these giant fingers. Kind of manly looking, but not so much. I don't know, kind of unisexual. MTR 202. With a retail price of $24.91 and a wholesale price of $17.32. This is for a 9x11 oval. This has got a hybrid seat, so theoretically you could put a cab or a cut stone in there. It's got a pretty good size gallery, right? So there's some gap there. Prongs are pretty good size, so a cab would have to be super deep or super thick for it to not work. Yeah, just lovely kind of crossover effect. Simple but classic, right? MTR 175 with a retail price of $40.11 and a wholesale price of $30.63. This is for a 13x32 millimeter marquise. In this, you could get away with a cut stone for sure. Look at how deep that basket is, right? Nice, big, hefty. God, that would look so cool with a stone in there. I don't have a stone that would work. Otherwise, I would show it to you. I love these, the double prongs, right, on the ends instead of the chevrons. I find these double prongs are a little more versatile as to what kind of stones you could put in there. If your points are very, very pointy on the ends of the marquise, great. If they're not, that will also work with these. Generally, if the points are a little bit rounded, they don't work as well in the chevrons. So that's why I just find these, the double prongs to be a little more versatile. And they work great. Now, with the prongs that are this close together, you pretty much have to, get that. What is that, 32? Yeah. You probably couldn't get away with anything outside of that 32-ish. It might be, 31.5 millimeters, but probably not 32.5 millimeters, if that makes sense. You can go maybe a 0.5 millimeter smaller, but not a 0.5 millimeter longer. Unlike this next ring, which is also a marquise ring, I'm going to show you something cool about this. MTR 054 with a retail price of $34.17 and a wholesale price of $27.38. This says for an 8x22 millimeter marquise stone, right? So it's got, pretty shallow prongs. The prongs are not super tall. It's got that beveled seat, so it's definitely designed for a cut stone. I have a cab here that is 12x24, if I remember correctly. So theoretically, you wouldn't be looking at this 8x22 millimeter ring for this stone, but because the prongs are on the side, and because of the edge geometry of this and how the shape of this works, this actually fits perfect in there, right? So the stone obviously extends past the front and back and a little bit out the sides, but if you're looking at this from the top, right, it's gorgeous. So I wouldn't recommend you just buying something sight unseen and saying, well, that'll probably work for my stone, because this is one of those quirks where, and if you have the stone and you're trying it right here, you know, it'll work. But if not, again, I wouldn't order that based on my hopes that I could get something to work. But I just thought it'd be interesting to show you what a cork that is. MTR 191 with a retail price of $23.69 and a wholesale price of $16.27. This is for a 10 millimeter square cabochon, definitely, with those nice big tall prongs with a flat side on the inside. Now this yeah, it's tricky. Ideally, you'd want the corners to be, you know, slightly beveled. I think would be the best bet for these things, because there are no notches on the inside of these prongs. So if it's a cabochon with a very, very pointy corners, I mean, it'll definitely work. I would just be mindful. It's tricky to set up. You just have to tack everything in slowly, one thing, and then just move around a little bit on one corner, a little bit on the opposite corner, a little bit on the, you know, back and forth. Just keep going all the way around until the stone is absolutely, you know, immobile, and then you can push the prongs over onto the stone. You know, if you don't, boy, I worry that the stone could shift in there. Obviously not a problem for a cut stone, which you could probably definitely put a cut stone in there, just based on how deep the gallery is, right? The basket, right? Pretty deep basket. That might be better. So I love that cool shank, how it's, you know, tapered down to the bottom, and it gets wider up near the shank, but not in the band. I don't know if that makes sense. I just like the interesting interplay of the shoulder width and the shank width. MTR, what is this, 180 with a retail price of $21.94 and a wholesale price of $15.42. This is for 9 by 11 millimeter oval cabochon for sure. Maybe a cut stone. You could definitely try that in there. Just a classic split shank ring, right? Very simple shoulders, very simple but elegant thing. I kind of love how the prongs kind of, you know, bulge out the side, right? So they come out the sides of so they're not sitting like straight up. This definitely, just love it. Very cool for a cabochon. Probably for a cut stone, but it's just a very interesting ring. MTR 071 with a retail price of $39.58 and a wholesale price of $29.77. This is for a 12 by 16 millimeter rectangular cab, right? Rectangle cab. This is what I call a lapidary special. All right, if you happen to have a stone that's exactly 12 by 16, you know, great. Pop it in there, cabochon. You'd have to glue that in there. But it's better if you're a lapidary and you can actually carve the your stone, you know, to match that thing. It's just a simple box ring. Actually, it taught a workshop, fabrication workshop, where we made these, and it's probably, but it was filled on the inside. It was an actual hollow box. Anyway, very simple, very cool, very elegant. Here is another Marquise ring. I don't think I have a cab that'll fit this. MTR 194 with a retail price of $34.14 and a wholesale price of $25.61. This is for 8 by 16 millimeter Marquise stone again. This is, I don't know if that slightly off center, so it's kind of one of those off center, kind of like they look like a wave sort of Marquise things. Anyway, this is they've got these chevrons here, which are great for pointy tipped stones, and this got that, definitely got that beveled seat. So this is built for cut stone, right? Pretty good size, pretty deep basket or gallery. Love the cutaways, you know, the faux filigree thing in the shoulder. Right, both sides, very cool. Here's MTR 195 with a retail price of $27.95 and a wholesale price of $19.56. This is for an 11 by 13 millimeter oval, and oh, this is the first one so far today that has some cubic zirconia in there. So just a standard shank, right, with a split shank, kind of a crossover at the shoulder with cubic zirconia points in there. The cute little stones with those like maybe 3 or 4 millimeter stones. Off the top of my head, they look like 4 millimeter stones. And just that very standard basket, very simple seat. You could definitely put a cut stone in here. You could put a cabochon in here. You could put whatever fits, and it's just lovely. Here's my next one, MTR 172 with a retail price of $34.14 and a wholesale price of $25.61. This is for a 15 by 20 millimeter oval. And again, you know, whenever you see this, you know, a flat edge with this dotted texture, that means glue goes here. So this would be a glue in stone. Very simple shank. With a cool kind of like a cap on the shoulder, right? And this tab here on both sides, once the stone has been glued onto there and set, you can actually push this over using a bezel pusher over onto the stone. And I don't know if you could see that, right? So very simple, very elegant setting. It would look like that when it's done. You know, obviously, if you glued it. Here's one, MTR 154 with a retail price of $29.01 and a wholesale price of $20.93. This is for a 14 by 15 millimeter, cloud shape, I guess. This is definitely one of those, hey, you're a lapidary and you want to make a cool thing, let's make this. Okay, this has to be like the most bizarre setting that we have, I think. Definitely, as far as shape goes, it's all over the place. I love it. I just love it. I don't know what to say about it. Split shank, right? Very simple gallery basket, cabochon, cut stone. It would have to be probably, I don't know, you could maybe do a cut stone in that shape. I think a cabochon would be easier. I have some ideas about how you would transfer this shape onto your stone to be able to cut it to that shape so it worked. Email me to ask if you have any questions. MTR 324 with a retail price of $19.02 and a wholesale price of $14.26. This is for a 10 by 13 millimeter oval, and this is a classic. This is another one of our kind of best sellers. Split shank with those kind of crossover shanks at the shoulder. One side with the bead and bright cut set stones, right? And again, the other side, this is not bead and bright cut done by hand. These are, you know, cast this way, not with the stones in place. The stones are all set after the fact. But and a lovely seat for a cabochon or a cut stone, you name it. It's just lovely. I'm just gonna go back to this ring again. You know, it's one of those things where no matter how many settings we get, somebody always says, yeah, but don't you have one that will fit this? And, you know, this is just a pretty good example of how far we're willing to go to satisfy. Oh, boy. I'm trying. MTR 203 with a retail price of $31.56 and a wholesale price of $22.10. This is for a 9 by 12 millimeter oval. Again, lovely deep basket gallery section here, and with some kind of cutaway, sections here. It's hollow on the inside, so this lots of light inside here. This so cut stone definitely in there. It would have to be a ridiculously deep pavilion for it to not fit in there. And I want to say I've probably seen some stones that wouldn't fit in there, but I don't think I have. It's pretty pretty awesome. Anyway, it's pretty good size shank, right? As far as the thickness goes. So I don't know, not really manly, not really girly, kind of in between. MTR 142 with a retail price of $30.23 and a wholesale price of $21.98. This is for an 11 millimeter square cab cut stone. The hybrid seat is there for the bevels for a cut stone. So yeah, it would have to be super deep for the culet to extend into the finger space, I think. I think you'd be safe with most cut stones. It'd be pretty rare for it to be that, deeper than that. Anyway, again, I'm a big fan of having the double prongs instead of the chevrons on the corners of these things, because no matter what kind of corners you have on there, if they're not super sharp, if they're a little bit curved, or even if they are super sharp, they'll work in here beautifully. And it's just kind of a cool, sort of almost like a wraparound shape. I don't know if you could follow the, the band, right, on both sides. Very cool, very interesting. I love it. Here's one, MTR 334 with a retail price of $38.29 and a wholesale price of $28.71. This is for a 16 by 21 millimeter oval. Lovely wide shank with a couple of cubic zirconias in the corners of the shoulder. Tapers up to a nice wide top. A very simple basket. This is definitely, when you have this much room between the bottom of your stone and the finger space, this means like no stones will fit it, no cut stones here, cabs only. So this is pretty much a cabochon's only stone ring. Nice big tall prongs, flat on the inside, rounded on the outside. So just lovely. And yeah, you might have noticed this one here is a adjustable ring. It's got that that thing that can open up and close. This ring, they don't come adjustable anymore. We had a few adjustable rings that we've slowly but surely replaced them all, and now they're all sized, right? So I don't know why. I just feel maybe the decision was that, and I agree 100% that adjustable rings feel cheap. I don't know, they feel less credible. They feel more like costume jewelry than fine jewelry. MTR 332 with a retail price of $25.53. I'm going to get in trouble for that. I know I am. $19.14 is the wholesale price. 15 by 19 millimeter oval. Lovely. But oops, these prongs bent up from being stacked on top of each other in the trays. Right. Pretty good size basket. Would a cut stone work in that? Maybe. That's pretty good size gallery. You just have to check. Definitely a cabochon will fit in here, though. This has got a hybrid seat, right? So it's beveled. A little bit of a flat edge on the inside of the prongs. Just lovely, lovely, slightly tapered band. Nice square all the way around. Very cool, very open. Very real versatile for the size of the cab that you want. MTR 276 with a retail price of $35.83 and a wholesale price of $22.99. This is for an 8 by 10 millimeter oval, and just a couple of differences between this one and the last one. this ring and this style of ring is sort of like it's more, hey, look at the cool stone I have on my finger. And the ring is kind of secondary to that, right? And this kind of ring it's like, look at this cool ring that I have. Oh, and there's a very beautiful stone in the middle. It's like, it's kind of a question of whether you're accentuating the ring or the stone, or how the serendipity of both. I love this texture on the inside, kind of like, I don't know, armadillo skin, or what I imagine. And it's probably totally opposite of what an armadillo is really like, but it reminds me of that sort of thing. I love that big wide shoulders, right? Coming up to a fairly simple seat. Cut stone would definitely work in here. Look how nice and deep that gallery is. Cabochon would also work. Whatever stone you put on there is going to be pretty forward of the ring. So definitely awesome ring to have on if you're in a fist fight. I didn't say that. MTR 285 with a retail price of $50.41. Violence is never the answer. $32.35 is your wholesale price. 11 by 13 millimeter oval. I'm so gonna get in trouble today. I just love this shank. Just a very classic. Shank that gets wider all the way up to the shoulders, and I love the shoulders. Kind of looks like curtains. I don't know. It's just very cool. Very drapey. All the way up to the simple seat, right? I don't know if you could see, there's like, those are empty pieces. So the seat is actually held onto the ring only by the tops of these curtains or these drapes where they come together. Very cool seat, hybrid seat. So a cabochon or a cut stone will fit in there. Your pick. You do whatever you want with it. And I know that some people are like on the fence. Personally, I'm a huge fan of these kinds of prongs that are just, they're plain, they're round, they're a little bit flat on the inside, so they're not really half round. They're kind of like bulgy, three-quarter-ish round kind of thing. These are perfect for the perfect kind of raw material if you need to cut down the size of your prongs. And I'm gonna do a video pretty soon about how to dress the ends of those things if you need to cut down the size of your prongs, because like I said, I think I said last week or a couple of weeks ago, I've seen some reviews of our stuff, and they're very nice reviews, and people are so thrilled, and this is beautiful, I fit my stone perfectly, and I love this. And you look at this setting, and the prongs haven't been cut down, and the prongs are made longer for a purpose, and they're just pushed over onto the stone, and this prongs extend like 3/4 of the way into the stone. It's just like, dude, you need to cut those down. But anyway, MTR 124, that's neither here nor there. $33.66 is the retail price. $25.18 is the wholesale price. This is for a whopper 16 by 24 millimeter cabochon, and I've set a ton of these at retail shows that we do. I don't know, because I think this is one of the most common sizes in the most popular stone template that people use. So I don't know, people cut just a ton of cabs this size, so we end up with seeing lots of them at those kind of retail shows where there are lapidaries selling their wares, and we're happy to be able to have something to set the stones in there, and they work with so many different stones, cut stones with not super deep pavilions, right? Because that's a pretty good size basket, but it's got a interesting, triple split shank, right, with a kind of cathedral effect with the center ones, right, pulling up the basket. Just a very cool, very elegant, very simple. Again, this is another one of those, look at the cool stone I have on my finger, and giant, big cab. definitely the kind of thing you could just wear around town to the grocery store. MTR 174 with a retail price of $28.11 and a wholesale price of $20.13. This is for another 18 by 24 millimeter cab, very similar to the previous one. A couple of differences. Instead of 3 triple splits, so it's just a regular split shank. Very simple basket. Right, very simple setting frame, very simple frame. Again, more of a showing off your stone than showing off the ring kind of a thing. Right, so the basket is not super deep, and even though this has got that hybrid thing with the beveled edge of the seat, I would be hard pressed to say that definitely your cut stone will work in there, because I can perceive all kinds of culettes extending down into the finger space and scraping on your ring on your finger and making you cranky when you put that on. So cabs probably work best in here, but you could try. Here's one that is definitely only for cabochons. MTR 162 with a retail price of $36.10 and a wholesale price of $27.11. This is for a 13 by 17 millimeter oval, right? It's got that flat inside, which is why pretty much only, for a cab. It doesn't have the dots, although I would definitely glue my stone down in here if it's an opaque cab. If it's a transparent cab, you might be able to get away with just pushing these tabs over onto the stone, as long as the edge geometry is advantageous. So if the edge of the cab tapers down to a point, so when you push these over onto the stone, you're definitely moving inside the perimeter of the stone. I hope that makes sense. Otherwise, it's just not secure, right? If this just pushes up against the side of the cab, your cab can just slip out. So maybe glue, definitely. And one cool thing about having a nice flat back like this is that when you have some stones like rainbow moonstone, I can think off the top of my head, maybe some opals. The light reflecting through the stone and off the back here really accentuates some of the flash, especially on like a rainbow moonstone. You get that chatoyance, that's all the different colors, and that definitely accentuates those kind of things. So this is a really good ring for those kinds of stones. Very simple, elegant split shank, right? Very cool. MTR 329 is the code for this one. Retail price $38.29, wholesale price $28.71. This is for a 13 by 18 oval cab, definitely for a cabochon. The seat is relatively deep, so I don't know. You could probably put a cut stone in there, depending on how high up on the seat the stone will sit. You might not end up with a culet sticking out into the finger space there. And with these, beautiful prongs, you can definitely, if you need them to be shortened, you can cut them down a little bit. If you need them to be this long, this is definitely, the way to go. It's awesome for a cab, probably for a cut stone. I love it. Very simple shank. Again, this is another one where we used to have this as just an adjustable ring, one size, but now we have them in all sizes, in a variety of sizes. You just have to check on the website to see what sizes they have them on. I know it's one of those things that I always think I should have this available when I'm doing this live stream. Like, what sizes will we have these available in? But I never remember to do that in advance. So you just have to look it up. MTR 515 with a retail price of $22.68 and a wholesale price of $14.18. This is for a 14 by 16 millimeter oval cab. Maybe a cut stone. That's a pretty good size basket there, right? Pretty deep gallery. I love that curly Q, that Kilroy was here shape on the shoulders. Oh, I'm never going to not see that now that I said that. Oh, crap. Oh, well. I love it. Very cool sort of inverted amphora shape, Love it. Very simple, elegant, band. Again, this is one of those, it's going to be more of a, look at the very cool stone I have in my ring instead of look at this cool ring that also has a stone. It's definitely one of those things that accentuates the stone more than the ring. Here's another kind of a curious one. MTR 378 with a retail price of $27.88 and a wholesale price of $19.51. This is for a 12 by 16 oval, but look at that, prongs all bent. But so it's got just a regular standard, shank, kind of a faux split shank with that crossover curlicue there to hold that gallery piece in there, that little airframe, what they call that. Very cool basket, but the underside of that, right, is filled in kind of. There's this framework down in the bottom, right, of inverted circle parts, quarters of a circle, right? And I guess depending on the edge geometry of your pavilion, you may or may not be able to get a cut stone to fit in there, because it's deep, but it's not super deep. Cabs obviously will fit, beautifully in there. And with a nice big airy open basket like that, you definitely want to try a cut stone in there. This is one of those, boy, if you could try it before you bought it, that would be best. But anyway, neither here nor there. Here's another one, another spiritual successor to the other smaller one that I showed you earlier. This for that 7x9, right, with that lovely freeform cage work. This one is a little more ornate. MTR 384, 26.31 is the retail price. 18.14 is the wholesale price. This is for 12 by 16 millimeter cabs, and this has got a little bit different seat, right? It's got a seat with a bezel, definitely for gluing in your stones, and then you could push these curlicues over onto the top of your stone a little bit. Just again, not for security. It's more for it's more of a cosmetic thing, but it'll definitely help keep your stone in there longer than it would if you just glued it to the flat thing. And I just love this, flourish, faux filigree sort of look to it, right? Nice big wide sharp. This is just a lovely, lovely ring. You'll never convince me otherwise. I love it. It's I think that's one of my favorite rings. Oh gosh, past an hour. MTR, oh no, we were 8 minutes late, so I'm not quite, I've got it 8 minutes before I'm late. MTR 301 with a retail price of $37.98 and a wholesale price of $23.73. This is for a 12 by 15 millimeter oval. Definitely you could put a cabochon, you could definitely put a cut stone in there. I love that very classic split shank with the bead and bright cut set. Cubic zirconias in there, and a lovely pattern right on the sides, right up against the side of a very simple basket, very simple gallery, right? Awesome. Again, it's another good seller. I kind of wanted to save this for last because this is a really crazy ring. MTR 016 with a retail price of, what was it? $30.83. And a wholesale price of $21.82. This is for a 16 by 28 millimeter rectangle-ish thing, right? Rectangular cab, I think, will fit in here beautifully, right? So this frame here is the, do I have something I could point with? No, is the seat. So the stone will sit right up against that, right down at the bottom of this prong, right? And then these are all decorative things, right? The prongs push over on the sides, push over on the ends. So even if your stone isn't exactly perfect for filling in all this space inside there. It could be off by kind of a 0.5 millimeter in either direction, and it will still work beautifully in this ring. Again, very cool ring, very simple, elegant, but I don't know, kind of weird because it's kind of curved on the corners, and you don't see many cabs in this shape. But this is definitely something that if you're a lapidary and you cut your own stones, that this would be an awesome ring, and something that you won't see very often. Because to be honest, we don't sell many of them because not a lot of people cut their stones into this shape. But I just love this ring. I just love the way it flows, the way it moves. Yeah, very cool. MTR 139 with a retail price of $42.35 and a wholesale price of $31.90. This is for a 15 by 28 millimeter marquise-ish. Probably definitely you want to put a cab in here. Maybe a cut stone. I worry that with cut stones, a lot of times the edges are very, very pointy, and with kind of having a curve at the top and the bottom of this seat, the points might extend past the edge of that. If you're lucky, they will, just because of the shape of this thing. What is that? 15 by 28. So that's not quite 1 to 2. Which most marquise stones are 1 to 2. When I say 1 to 2, I mean 1 wide by 2 long, right? So if it's 10 millimeters wide, 20 millimeters long is the average, kind of, I don't want to say normal. It's kind of the average ratio. And this is just a little bit less tall than it is wide, right? So this is definitely more of a lapidary special kind of thing. Love the cool shoulder with the cutaway and the very just gorgeous, gallery section of this thing. And these double prongs all the way around, right? It's kind of weird to see double prongs along the sides of a stone setting instead of at the points. But it's just very cool effect here. Ostensibly, this is designed for cabochons, but again, you might be able to put a cut stone in there. I don't know. You'd have to try it out and see. Here's another one that has very similar. It's got those same double prongs, right? So it's very cool. MTR 167 with a retail price of $32.04 and a wholesale price of $23.57. This is for a 14 by 18 millimeter oval cab. And even as soon as I mentioned, like a second ago, how rare it was to see these double prongs not in the corners of the things. Oops, here's this ring to prove me wrong. So, I mean, these are basically the same ring, right? I don't know if you can see the gallery is pretty much identical. It's just been scaled. It's like it's been stretched and scaled. I don't know. Maybe the guys who are doing the CAD drawings of this just kind of, squished this all for this dimension of a stone, 14 by 18. Or maybe this is the one they designed first, and we said, hey, we need this similar thing, but for a marquise, and they just stretched it this way. That probably makes more sense. Well, I don't know. That's smaller. Right, so it's basically the same ring, just one for a marquise and the other for an oval. Very cool, very elegant. I don't know what else I could say that I didn't say on the last one. So I'm not gonna. MTR 046B with a retail price of $16.50 and a wholesale price of $11.84. This is for an 8 by 12 millimeter oval. And anytime there's a letter B on the code, there's a cool story attached to it. But that's for neither here nor there. You can message me and ask me what's the story behind letter B. This is kind of an interesting gallery, right? That open airframe thing, very cool. This is for cabochon all day long, right? It's not a very thick seat, so boy, anything more than a really super shallow cut stone, the culet will extend down into the finger space, and then you'll be scratched and cranky. And it's got these lovely, super tall prongs that are probably longer than you need for most stones. But I have seen some, you know, when you go to these retail shows, you see these lapidaries, and they'll cut, you know, rainbow moonstones or labradorite. It seems like those are the two biggest. I almost said offenders, but they're not really offensive. They're just ridiculously thick. You know, they'll cut it from like, you know, 10 millimeter thick slab. And then the sides are not tapered, so they're flat on the inside. So you need to have, you know, super tall prongs to be able to get up onto the curve. Again, if you have a cabochon that's pretty low dome and you put it in this setting, please don't take this and push this over onto the stone and have the prongs extend all the way like halfway into the center of the stone. It looks dumb, you know. Sorry. It just looks weird, totally weird. So you're meant to trim these down a little bit. You can carve the ends into nice round little domes again, maybe with a cup burr or with a file. Yeah. And then push that down on there. I love that nice big wide seat, right? So lots of room for the cab to fit in there. Very cool, very interesting. I've got two more rings that I want to show you. You know what? Let me do this one last because there's some very cool things about that. This is another one of my favorites. I sold a ton of these at shows. People love this ring. MTR 144 with a retail price of $34.55 and a wholesale price of $25.76. This is for a 12 by 16 millimeter oval, and it looks, you know, just very simple. It's kind of, it's not a tiny ring, but it's also not bulky. I don't know if that's a way to say it. It's just very cool, kind of split shank with a super interesting crossover effect, right? So when you look at it from the front, you've got that lovely swoop that comes around the top and the bottom. It's a pretty good sized basket, so cut stones fit in here beautifully. Cabochons also work in here beautifully. I have one that's almost exactly the right size. Let me see if I can get that. It's a little bit smaller, but you get an idea what that looks like, kind of, right? Very cool, very interesting. Love it. I love this ring. Again, very versatile. That's not the size of the setting, but the stone kind of works in there. It's a little bit loose. And then the last ring I want to show you today is this MTR 195 with a retail price of $27.95 and a wholesale price of $19.56. This is for an 11 by 13 millimeter oval. Now, here's what I want to show you. So, very simple shank with a split shank and the cubic zirconia up at the top of the shoulder, right, holding the basket seat in there. We had another ring earlier that I showed you that was very similar. But whatever. You saw it. I'm sure you remember. I'm sure you remember something, some random ring that you looked at 30 minutes ago. Anyway, so this is a cab that is that size, 11 by 13, right? That, oh no, this is the wrong one. Oh no. So, never mind. This is not the ring that I wanted to show you. This is the one, the last one. MTR 341 with a retail price of $24.54 and a wholesale price of $18.41. This is for a 13 by 17 millimeter. You know, this is obviously designed for a cab with a nice big square seat. The prongs with the flat inside, rounded outside, you know, big tall prongs. So if you put a cab in there, right? And the edges are not super tapered, this will still work. You'll be able to get this all the way up to the top to hold that, you know, stone in there, right? But having said that, so this is what is it, 13 by 16? 13 by 17. So I've got this cut stone that's 14 by 18, something like that. And this actually works in this setting, right? Because the taper of the stone, right, matches the seat, and it sits pretty high up in the setting, but with these super cool prongs, there's definitely enough, or more than enough even, I think, to push the prong over and get this, halfway up the girdle, which is maximum, which you'd want. Right? So, yeah, again, I don't want to confuse the issue, but sometimes, just because a stone, a setting says 13 by 17, doesn't mean that you're only going to be able to fit 13 by 17 millimeter, stones in there. That's why, boy, it's so good if you could all just move to Vancouver so you could come in and actually, put your stones in the rings and see them, right? So I don't know, maybe that's a little bit higher up on the seat than I would like to see. Maybe if I was designing this from scratch, I definitely make this a little bit seat a little bit lower. But this is just an example, right? You can definitely use stones that are not specifically designed for that setting in there if they fit. There's no rules, right? So that's the last one. Again, there are no rules as far as jewelry go. There's only a way or another way. If you find, something that works for you, then that's whatever the technique you should be using or whatever you should be doing. If there's a setting that's designed for one kind of a stone that uses another kind, oh boy, and I've seen people, at when we used to do shows all the time, I've seen people do some really crazy things, with setting stones upside down with the pavilion sticking out. I don't know. Okay, it's your ring. I don't have to wear it. But my point is, don't be hung up on, obviously, if you're ordering from far away and we're going to be sending you the stuff, try to limit yourself to ordering, stones that match, the dimensions of the setting, that we say. That'll pretty much always work. But sometimes, just because something is made for one thing doesn't mean it won't work for another, is my point. And which doesn't really help you if you're watching us from far away. But if you're local, or if you're ever in Vancouver, give us a call. We, people come in pretty often by appointment only. But, you're welcome to try out your stones on all these things. We'll make something work. You can pretty much always find something, unless it's, like those lapidary, things where it seems like lapidaries, when they're first learning, the simple shapes, ovals, pairs, marquise, rounds, it's almost like, yeah, those are cool, but they're a lot harder to do well. They're easy to do, but hard to do well. Whereas just, funky shapes, weird, well, the stone spoke to me and it said, I want to be this crazy shape. Well, okay, great. Whatever works for you and your artistic endeavors, but makes it real difficult to put a prefabricated setting around it. Although we love doing custom work, so that's one of those, kind of things. Yeah. I think that's it. That's where we're going to stop today. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back again next Wednesday. I didn't remember to look up. I think it's 43rd, 44th episode, something. It's whatever it is, the 40-something episode of it, which seems crazy to me. We've done this so many episodes. We'll be here next week. Again, 10:30 Pacific, and extrapolate it out to wherever you are, whatever time zone it is. It's 10:30 here. Or if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube or thing or whatever, thank you for joining us. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. Take care of the planet. Take care of each other. And keep working, keep making stuff. Keep those creative juices flowing. I know it's tough sometimes when the world is in a state of existential dread, but, we're going to work through it. We're going to get there. And we are grateful every day to be part of your artistic endeavors. So take care, and we will see you next week. Bye bye.